All right, it is time for another video. This week we are talking about motivation. I'm noticing that a lot of people will adopt the great work. They'll start to do a magical curriculum that brings them towards adeptship, but somewhere along the line they fall off the wagon and can't seem to get back on it again, or they resume again later. And this is largely because people get into doing magic because they want to be able to manifest this or that thing in their life. They have a certain goal and they want to achieve it. You want to do away with an enemy, or you want to get lots of money, or you want to experience abundance, these kinds of things. Um, so when it becomes increasingly apparent that you're going to be doing a rigorous discipline for a number of years before you're able to do any of that, people can get turned off relatively quickly. And so maybe I can say a few words on how to stay motivated to get through the process. Okay, ultimately, what the magical work is about is manifesting something, yes, but what you're manifesting is the state of enlightenment. And there is nothing else worth having, really, than that. So one of the problems with magic is that as you work yourself towards adeptship, nothing is allowed until you get there. In other words, you can't do any magic for attracting wealth or attracting a particular planetary virtue or something like that. You can't really do what you want to do until you get to a certain point. And I know how frustrating that can be, because when I learned to play guitar, the way they taught it in school was insufferable. They propped you up in front of a piece of sheet music and had you learn how to read sheet music one note at a time, plucking away on the guitar. And part of me, when I was trying to learn that, rebelled. I'm like, what does this have to do with music? This is not the way our ancestors learned how to play music. We didn't learn to sing by reading notes off of a page, and we didn't build instruments so that we could read notes off of a page. And we didn't need to learn a bunch of different scales and a bunch of different keys until we could actually play a song. We just basically started playing a song, as bad as it might have been. Okay, and so the way that I eventually ended up learning to play guitar was that I learned by playing a song right away. It wasn't a very good song. It only had one chord in it, but god damn it, I was playing a song. And then eventually I learned how to play two chords, which was much better, and then singing along, and then eventually three chords, and suddenly that's almost all blues songs right there. And of course you get strumming patterns and finger picking patterns and things like that, and things just get better and better rapidly. And to this day, I do not read sheet music very well, nor do I have to. It really doesn't have much to do with music at all. Now, when it comes to magic, it doesn't really work that way. I'm so sorry, because the problem with magic is that the things you want and the things that you try to manifest are actually sabotaging the work that you're doing. You might want to think of it like a drug addict. So if somebody wants to experience what it's like to be free and clear of drug addiction, they can't just say, well, I'll just do the 12-step program when I feel like it. In fact, what I'll do is I'll borrow a little bit from this 12-step program over here, and that's 12-step program over there, and at the same time, I'm still going to be taking some drugs and getting high. But everything combined together, I should be able to make it work. No, we know it's not going to work. And one of the problems with a mystical discipline like magic is that we are caught up in something that the Buddhists call samsara, a cycle of endless suffering, suffering that perpetuates itself. It's a karmic cycle. And when you're caught in a karmic cycle, the only way out of it is to abstain from it. And the only thing worth manifesting is a state of freedom from that cycle. So you don't even know what truly is possible with magic until you have freed yourself mostly from that cycle. So you're freeing yourself from that cycle so it doesn't have a hold on you anymore. Okay, it's still there. It's not going to go away. You're not going to cease to be human, but it's not going to dictate everything about your life anymore. It's going to diminish to such a degree that it can't take you over anymore. This is what it means to be an adept, somebody who is not taken over anymore by a cycle of suffering. And once you get to that point, then things begin to manifest relatively easy around you without even doing magic. And you can do magic to help things along. Okay, so one of the hard things to understand about adeptship is that you can't just have whatever you want. An adept is someone who sees what's happening in the universe around him or her and will help those things come out into the open. So they'll notice what is arising as a potential, and if they want to see more of that, they can help it come out into reality. So a magician is sort of like a midwife for different kinds of reality. If a certain type of reality is arising as a potential right now, then you can act as a midwife through your techniques, rituals, whatever, and help it along and birth it into full manifestation. Okay? But it has to be there to begin with. It has to be arising to begin with. You can't just pluck something out of thin air and have whatever you want. Sorry. We basically are now melded to the universe, and you're in tune with what's going on, and then you can help things come out. And to all intents and purposes around you, people will. It'll look like you're doing magic, like you're getting whatever you want. Okay, but what you're actually doing is helping certain things come out into the open. From potentiality to actuality. Okay. And if that turns you off of magic, so much the better. Don't get involved unless that's something that you think you might be interested in. Okay. And of course, remember, magic is about manifesting the state of enlightenment. There is nothing else in the universe worth having other than enlightenment. One of the things that is keeping people from pursuing a discipline like magic is that they are distracted by so many other things. Particularly nowadays, it's hard to have a magical discipline because we are pulled in so many different directions by technology, by social media, by texting, and smartphones and computers and things like that. What is happening to us is that the stress response is constantly being triggered, and we're not really so much aware of it. Human beings have a natural instinct for gossip. It used to serve us relatively well when we lived in, let's say, villages or towns. And the towns and villages were relatively isolated from each other. We didn't have a communication network through wires or through wireless communication. We just pretty much had people traveling from town to town. We didn't know what was happening in a nearby settlement unless somebody visited. And when they visited, we would take care of them. We would put them up at the inn, we'd feed them, and then they would have to sing for their supper. Tell us what's going on. Give us the news from the nearby town. What's going on there? How are they doing with their crops? How is the warlord doing in the local territory? Is he going to take us over? Or what's happening? So we would really benefit from getting that gossip from anybody who happened to be visiting. So we developed a natural instinct for wanting to hear these things, for needing to hear these things. Okay. Unfortunately, this instinct nowadays is being taken advantage of by social media apps. Um, you could call it like a FOMO instinct, a fear of missing out. In other words, we still live under the assumption that we need to hear everything that's going on around us in the world, um, because that's something that used to help us survive better in the past. Now we get so much information that's not necessary anymore. But the instinct is still there. That gossip instinct is still there, and it's being taken advantage of. So as you're scrolling through your news feed, that FOMO instinct, the fear of missing out, is still being triggered, and you can't stop yourself. There are other things besides the FOMO instinct going on there, but that's one of the big ones right there. If you are aware of this instinct and you notice it cropping up and you notice how it's being taken advantage of, you can look at your phone and look at these social media apps and go, "Oh my God, what's happened to me? These people are taking advantage. These designers of these software programs are taking advantage of my natural instincts in order to make a few pennies off of me. And it's really being a drain on my time. Not only that, but it's stressing me out." Okay, so you might want to consider your nervous system. Your nervous system has two parts at least. It has the stress response and the relaxation response. And you might want to consider that there's a sort of slider bar between here's the stress response, here's the relaxation response. And so as any little thing that makes you feel like you're inadequate, like you don't have this and you need it, is going to stress you out a little bit. I need to go get that. Oh, this celebrity over here has that. I don't have that. Oh, it's affordable. I can go get that too, and I can be like that. Now I'm not missing out anymore. Okay, let's go get it. Or even better, the news constantly is bombarding you with this or that threat. And of course, these threats are happening in countries across the ocean. And the threats that are being shown to you rather dramatically through news footage are not even having much of an impact on you. Okay, and yet they're triggering your stress response as though they are pretty much right next door or in the next neighborhood. You need to develop some perspective on these things. Just realize that the gossip instinct and the FOMO instinct is being capitalized on by these social media companies. Okay, do they realize they're doing it? Yes, I think they do to some degree. And of course, many of the designers of these programs have stumbled upon this mechanism. They're not sure what's happening, but they know, hey, it's working, whatever it is, and they keep you hooked on this technology that is stressing you out and making you feel like you don't have things or making you feel like you're being threatened. Each time you come across one of these little stories that seems very harmless, the slider bar between your stress response and relaxation response is being pushed towards the stress response. Okay, this is why anxiety is so rampant nowadays. Okay, there are other factors that come into play too, like the amount of sugar that we eat, of course, the amount of carbs we eat, and things like that. But primarily, it's the constant exposure to the news feed, scrolling through one reminder of things you don't have after another, okay? Or scrolling through one threat after another. Your instinct says, yes, I'm staying on top of things. I'm informed. That means I can dodge things that are coming my way, or I can take advantage of things that are coming my way. I'm doing a good thing by looking at all these apps. That's what the instinct tends to say. But ultimately what's happening is that each little sense of inadequacy that you get, or each little threat, is stressing you out and pushing that slider bar towards the stress response, to the point where you are constantly stressed out because you keep scrolling through that news feed, you keep checking texts, you keep living life as though it's one emergency after another. even though it's a minor emergency, at one minor emergency after another, it still keeps pushing that slider bar to the stress response. The stress response shuts down higher brain function. Think of the monster that's chasing you in a horror movie. The stress response from being chased by the monster dumbs you down so much that you can't even figure out which car key opens your car door. Okay, so it doesn't take much to realize how much the stress response dumbs you down. Okay, and people do seem to be getting stupider as time goes by, as we get more addicted to social media, and as our FOMO instinct and our gossip instinct is being taken advantage of by these social media companies unwittingly. Okay, so when it comes to stress, there's some good stress and bad stress. There's eustress and distress. Okay, and you might want to think of these things as the eudaimon and the cacodemon. Okay, eustress means good stress, distress means bad stress. So there are good types of stress to have, and that's the type of stress that motivates you to get through the ordinary tasks of your day. The distress is the unnecessary stress, the excess stress, the chronic stress, which keeps nagging you, and yet you can't seem to get enough of it because of your FOMO instinct and your gossip instinct. Okay, and you might want to think of the the instinct to the instinct that has you using stress to motivate yourself just to get through ordinary tasks. That would be your good demon, your eudaimon. Okay. And if your instinct is misfiring, if you have a gossip instinct that is being taken advantage of and not working correctly, that would be the evil demon, the cacodemon, cacodemon. Okay, a daimon is a spirit. It's not necessarily a demon. Of course, a demon is a daimon. Okay, demon is a word that Christianity came up with to describe daimons. A daimon is a spirit, neither good nor bad, or could be evil, could be good. Okay, and the daimons pretty much inhabited a realm between the gods and mortals, and there were good spirits and bad spirits. They were called daimons. And Christianity came along, and anything that wasn't Jesus or God was considered evil, and so all of the daimons became evil demons. Okay, but if you want to divide them into two categories, any spirit or instinct that is misfiring and not working to serve you well is a cacodemon, bad demon, right? And a spirit that is serving you well, or an instinct that is serving you well, helping you get through your day and stay motivated, get things done, whatever, helping you relax, that's a eudaimon, or a good spirit, good demon. All right. It's not like you have a good demon here and bad demon here, like sort of the good angel on the right shoulder and the bad angel on the left shoulder. It's more like the evil demon arises in a contracted state. Okay, so picture yourself standing underneath a shower head and you're taking a shower. Okay, the shower may be too cold, it may be too hot, maybe just right, might feel good, might feel bad. Okay, whatever's happening with that shower, that is the eudaimon. That's simply reality as it is. This is the shower that's happening. Okay, now the cacodemon, the evil demon, is the sense of you getting pelted by those droplets. They're too cold, they're too hot, they're coming at me too hard, it hurts, or I don't want to be wet right now, but I have to be clean, whatever. So that sense of you being hit by those droplets, that is the evil demon that is sort of flaring to life and saying, what's happening? Why is this happening? What am I doing in this shower? Okay. The goal of enlightenment is for that cacodemon to disappear, and all there is just a shower. There's just the droplets hitting everything underneath the shower head. There's no you there anymore to be hit. It's just stuff happening. There's no you, okay? What this means is that the actual experience of the shower is the higher self. The ego is the one that is now being hit by or bothered by or comforted by that shower. Okay, and of course the goal of enlightenment is to have that ego vanish. So it's nothing but pure shower. In other words, nothing but reality just coming at you as it is with no you there to be irritated by it or comforted by it or made to feel inadequate by it. There's no ego there at all. Okay, that's sort of the goal there, okay? And of course, this idea of reality just coming at you just as it is without the need to feel offended by it, bothered by it, or comforted by it, or rescued by it, whatever, without that special need, it just becomes all higher self, all reality just as it is. How do we get to that point? So you're just taking a shower, that's it. And then there's no you taking a shower. It's just the experience of the shower, that's all. There's no you to be bothered by it. There's no you to be comforted by it. There's no you to be rescued by it. Just the shower. What happens is when stuff happens in life, something in us flares to life. It flares up. Okay, it's like this fire ignites in you that is suffering. Okay, the reason I'm bringing this up is because the word nirvana that's the word that Buddhists use for enlightenment. That's a Sanskrit word for enlightenment, nirvana. It literally means blown out. Okay, so you might consider that most of us, when we're standing underneath a shower that we're uncomfortable with, we pretty much, this irritation in us is flaring to life. It might be even an irritation that says, I need to be comforted by the shower. Is it warm enough? Is it warm enough? Yes, okay, I think I feel better now, but it's still burning. It's still, that fire is still burning, that fire of desire or the fire of defensiveness, the fire of discontent is still burning. Okay. And of course, to be enlightened is have that flame completely blown out. So there's nothing but the experience of the shower. And there's no fire left at all to be cool. And it's pretty cool that we have, in the West, we have this idea of being cool. Ah, he's cool. Like, what does it mean to be cool? Well, probably what you gather from people who are cool are people who are unfazed. So when you say stuff that's annoying, they don't get annoyed. It's like, that's cool, man, whatever. It's like, oh, you feel that way? That's fine. It doesn't bother them because they're cool. In other words, they don't have that fire that flares up and says, how dare you? Okay, they still have preferences and they'll get away from you if you're irritating, but they're not going to have this attitude like, what's wrong with you or something like that. So to be cool is to have that fire blown out. So basically, you're not irritated. There's no me to be affronted. Okay. You might want to consider that when somebody says nirvana or somebody talks about enlightenment. It's like basically to have that fire of ego blown out. And of course, to be truly enlightened is to be stabilized in that state of enlightenment, so that once the flame goes out, it never reignites. It's gone, and it will not reignite. It's gone forever. No more suffering. Okay. For many of us on the spiritual path, we learn to put the fire out occasionally, but it flares back to life again. It comes back. It's like those trick candles on the birthday cake. You blow them out, and you think they've blown out, and suddenly they flare back to life again. It's like, oh, the ego came back. Oh my God. Okay. So what does it mean to be cool? It means to be unfazed. So being enlightened and being cool are kind of the same thing. Okay. Now, standing underneath the shower head, taking a shower. You're immersing yourself in the flow of life. And that life can really flow when you get out of the way, when there's no you there anymore to be bothered by it. Okay? There has been some pretty cool research done into how to achieve the flow state. Okay? It's not that hard. Essentially, what you need to do is immerse yourself in a task that's relatively challenging, not too stressful, only slightly stressful enough to keep you motivated, keep you going, so that you are so absorbed in the task that the flame blows out and there's nobody standing in the shower anymore. There's just a shower happening. There's no worry, there's no fuss about whether or not you're going to succeed or not. There's just the task itself. You disappear. There's nothing but the work. The work is going on now. And there's no you to be bothered by it. Okay, that's essentially what it means to be in a flow state. To enter a flow state, you need a pretty clear goal that you're not very attached to, but it needs to be clear. And there needs to be a moderate amount of challenge for that to happen. Okay, I recommend doing some research into flow. There's some pretty cool science about it. Can you stay in the flow state forever? Probably not. But of course, to be enlightened like a Buddha, it's forever. You pretty much are now permanently in the flow state. The flame has gone out and it will not reignite. What does it mean to be motivated? Well, biologically, you require dopamine. At least that's what seems to happen. A dopamine secretion in the brain tends to correspond to a state of motivation. Dopamine is sort of a feel-good hormone, sometimes called a happiness hormone. It's a bit of a misnomer. It's more of a, when this hormone is secreted, it corresponds to a state of feeling like you want to get something done, feeling motivated, like, yes, I got this, I can do this, let's do it, let's go. Okay. One of the problems with social media that's happening now is that it depletes dopamine because it's constantly trying to stimulate you to do something. It's prodding you with your sense of inadequacy. You don't have the right body type. You need to look like this. Go buy this product. Go get this gym membership. Go do this. Go eat this. Or there's these threats on the horizon. You need to take precautions. You need to buy this insurance. You need to vote for this person to protect yourself. You need to be safe. Okay. All these things are pushing your dopamine, are getting you to secrete dopamine so to get you to do things. Okay. But all these apps and things are getting you to do things that other people want. And of course they are, not only are they lying to you, but they're also, feeding you a false version of reality. They're talking about stuff that's happening that doesn't have much to do with where you are, and yet still it's pushing you to do more, to scroll further, to not miss out, to keep the gossip flowing because you think it's helping you to just stay on top of gossip. Okay. And as this keeps going on throughout your day, it's depleting the amount of dopamine you have in your brain. You might want to consider there's this gland in your head that secretes dopamine and it runs out. And suddenly, I don't feel like doing anything. No, what? I feel so apathetic. I don't know why. And of course, let me just reach for my phone and scroll some more. And then more dopamine gets depleted because these apps are constantly getting you to want to do things or pressuring you to do things. So the dopamine gets depleted. Naturally, the answer is to delete most of your social media accounts, and the ones that you do use, you seldom use them. Sorry. Okay. But I'd like to ask, do these things really give you any happiness? If they're depleting the very hormone that makes you feel motivated, they're actually going to lead to depression, anxiety, disempowerment. And this is exactly what is happening to us. And of course, you won't feel like doing the magical work if you're constantly hooked on these things and your dopamine is being depleted. Well, how can you increase dopamine? naturally you abstain from activities that deplete it. Okay. Now, there's some easy fixes. Getting enough sleep, uh, for one thing, is a great way to restore dopamine. Okay, getting 8 or more hours of sleep per night. Okay, don't want to overdo it, but of course, taking control of the light exposure that you have, so that your brain is producing the right amount of melatonin at night. That's an easy way to make sure you're getting enough sleep. If you suffer from insomnia, chances are it's simply because you're exposing yourself to electric light at night. Okay, and now electric light that has some of the blue spectrum in it, and I've talked about this before. There is a type of electric light that you can um, bring into your home that doesn't have much blue in it, that can then encourage your brain to produce enough melatonin so you can get enough sleep. Okay, another easy hack is to wear blue blocking glasses. Once the sun goes down, you'll get sleepy very fast. Okay, that'll give you enough sleep, and during that lengthy sleep cycle, your dopamine will be restored. Okay, but then in the morning, don't reach for the phone. That's probably what you're going to do, right? Let's scroll a little bit. Let's check my texts. Let's check the news. Now, these things are going to once again keep pushing you to do things, motivating you to do things so you don't feel inadequate, or motivating you to do things so that you don't feel stressed out or under threat. I recommend not watching the news ever again. Ever. And if you think you need to keep in touch with it, I would suggest that you watch the news only to see what other people are chronically stressed out about, because there's always some kind of psychic epidemic going on that's being perpetuated by the news cycle and by social media. So you can at least tune in to see what everybody's stressed out about, maybe once a week for about 10 minutes, and then put the damn thing away. Put the phone away, turn off the news. If there's something you really need to know about, you can find out very quickly, because the news is everywhere, because people are addicted because of FOMO and because of the gossip instinct. Okay, so there's no need to worry about being cut off from the news. It's everywhere. And I do highly recommend you do not watch it ever again, okay, unless it's prescriptive, unless you want to go after something. You need some specific information, check out the news, and then quickly turn it off again. Because you'll begin to notice, it's like, oh, it's happening again. Oh my God, these various instincts that I wasn't aware of before are being triggered again. There they are. Oh my God, this stuff is very real. I didn't know I had a FOMO instinct or a gossip instinct. Another way to increase dopamine is to meditate. But by meditate, I basically just mean sitting, doing nothing. Don't keep trying to achieve some kind of state, because that's going to deplete dopamine. Okay, so it'd be better to describe it as a state of non-meditation, sitting there doing nothing. Don't try to meditate. Oh, for heaven's sake, that's going to deplete dopamine really fast, especially if you have some kind of sparkly idea about what should be happening and you try to go after that thing. Okay, sitting still, doing nothing. And to help that even further, you can do any a breathing pattern that has a long exhale. Okay, there's a breathing pattern I recommend in one of my videos. I think it's called Several Breathing Techniques That Will Change Your Life, something like that. It's called the dead breath. That's really good. It's got the long exhale, and you can help you increase your dopamine stores again. It requires a little bit of attention to do it. An easier one is the witchy breath, which involves breathing in to the count of 3, holding the breath for the count of 7, breathing out for the count of 9, holding the breath out for the count of 13, and then starting the cycle over again. Okay. And if you just sit down, chances are you're not going to be able to hold your breath for 13 seconds, so you could leave off that 13-second pause for the first few breaths, but then eventually incorporate it in when it becomes easy for you. Okay. The most important part about this witchy breath is probably the number 9, because that's the out breath, which is sustained. Though I do find that a 13-second breath hold is also really calming, evening out. Hard to describe. Okay, you might want to try it. I call it the witchy breath because these are all witchy numbers from witchcraft. The number 3 is for the triple goddess. The number 7 is the number of planets. The number 9 is the number of the moon. And the number 13 is the number of lunar months in the year. Not that that matters. It just happens to be a really cool pattern for breathing. And it's one that you don't have to pay much attention to. You just get in the pattern and it becomes automatic. And lo and behold, your dopamine levels go up and you feel like doing things again. I recommend doing this for maybe 30 minutes, something like that. You can also adopt this breathing pattern when you're doing the middle pillar, when you're circulating the light. Pomodora Technique. So, to be motivated in order to study, if you're going to be a student of Hermeticism, you are a scholar. You are somebody who likes to read books and scrolls and computer screens. Okay, somebody who likes to do research even. Okay, hopefully not in a social media feed or in the news. That might happen sometimes. You're somebody who likes to do research into biology, into mythology, into psychology, into mysticism, into obscure systems of alchemy. Okay, and there's in the Kabbalah magic curriculum, there's quite a lot of reading to do. Okay, and some study work too, and things like that. So in order to stay motivated for that, I might suggest you adopt the Pomodora Technique. Some of you probably know what this is. The most obvious example is that you set a timer for 25 minutes. And during the 25 minutes, you are not allowed to have any distractions. You simply do the work of your studying. You do your reading, or you work on your compendium of gods, or you draw some mystical diagrams, or you color your tree of life diagrams, and you don't allow anything to distract you from that for the 25 minutes. And then when the 25 minutes is up, you might want to finish a little task, and you'll say, and you want to just speak to your psyche and say, just hold on for a second. I want to finish this one little thing, and then we're going to take a break. Okay. You want to communicate with your psyche. Let it know that you care about it. Okay. And then when the 25 minutes is up, you take a 5-minute break and do whatever. Okay. I wouldn't recommend reaching for the phone. Okay. But just relax. Putter around the house, go do the dishes, some kind of mindless task. And then when the 5 minutes is up, 5 or so minutes, then you go through your next cycle of 25 minutes where you do some of your study work or your reading, and you do not allow any distractions to interfere with your study or your reading until the 25 minutes is up. Okay, and when the 25 minutes is up, then you can say, oh, let me just finish this paragraph, and then I'll stop, and we'll take a break, and then we'll start the next cycle again. I think you'll find that this is quite effective. It actually can be quite useful. Is 25 minutes optimal for you? No. You can start that way, but then you can tweak it. You might do 40 minutes and a 10-minute break, or you might do 10 minutes and a 3-minute break. Okay? Set up a pattern that works for you. But the cool thing is that during that study time or the reading time, you don't allow any distractions to creep into your activity. Okay, it can be pretty. Once you get into it, I think you'll find that the motivation factor is pretty strong once you establish a good habit with the Pomodora technique. Yes, 25 minutes and 5 minutes is the standard amount you'll find. You could even find some YouTube ambiance channels where they just play some white noise like rain falling or river flowing or wind blowing for 25 minutes, and then a little buzzer goes off, and then there's a 5-minute break, and then after the 5-minute break there's another 25-minute session of white noise. That's pretty cool. Might want to try that. During your day, I would suggest setting up a substantial amount of Nag Free Time. Technology is constantly nagging you. Okay. What this involves is going into your smartphone and removing all of the alerts. Okay, so your phone no longer buzzes at you and sends banners at you and alerts you for this and that. The only alert I might consider leaving on is the little badge that appears on your app that will magically appear without buzzing or alerting you with a banner. Okay, so that when you do look at your phone, you can see which apps have notifications on them, but your phone isn't constantly buzzing at you. I wonder if this is causing some of you to panic right now, because I noticed, especially among the younger people, they must have their phone with them at all times. And when it buzzes next to them, they immediately look at it. It's the strangest thing. I'm somewhat older, so I remember a time when there were no smartphones, obviously. And when my phone buzzes in my pocket, I don't grab it and look at it. I pay attention to the person I'm sitting with and who I'm talking to. If that person is a younger person, they normally will turn away from me and look at their phone. And not only is that rude, but it's also it's kind of like if somebody snaps their finger at you and says, "Hey, go do exactly what I say right now. Go do this," and you run and go do it. That's what's happening. This phone is basically telling you to go do something, and you, "Oh yeah, I'll go do that." Who made that phone boss of you? Take your power back. My phone doesn't boss me around, doesn't tell me what to do. I look at it when I want to look at it. In other words, I'm cool. My fire has gone out. I'm not constantly alerted and on fire to go do something, or on fire afraid of something. I'm not constantly worried I'm missing out on something. I'm cool. Nirvana means blown out. Fire's gone. So set up some Nag Free Time, a lot of Nag Free Time during the day. And what I recommend, I just spoke to a friend of mine today. His only time to check with social media and any stressful situations on the news or anything like that is pretty much right around dinner time. And when dinner's over, like before dinner, during dinner, when dinner's over, then all that stuff gets turned off. He puts on the blue blocking glasses, he does the dishes, and during cleaning the kitchen, doing the dishes, getting the house ready for nighttime, that's a nice settling down activity where none of these neurotic news feeds and things keep prodding him and telling him what's good for him or what's not good for him. And he's starting to wind down for sleep. And he most certainly does not tune into any of this social media toxicity right before going to bed. It would be ideal to not keep the smartphone in the bedroom at all, and to actually reinstate using an alarm clock. Okay, but if you can use your smartphone as an alarm clock and not have it buzzing at you and alerting you, I suppose. But I highly recommend that you adopt the ancient practice of an alarm clock, if you need one, and keeping the smartphone out of the bedroom. You might even set up a policy where it's not even allowed in there. Okay, and in fact, maybe while you're at home, it stays locked in a box. The interesting thing is that there's been studies done that when a phone is not within arm's reach, stress levels go way down, concentration levels go way up. Kind of strange, actually. And of course, if stress levels go down, intelligence also goes up a lot. When stress levels go up, intelligence goes down a lot. All right. In order to be motivated and to make progress in a hermetic magical curriculum like the Kabbalah Magic Book or any system of mystical training or study, we need to relearn how to read. Okay, because the social media has also conditioned us to hunt for information with our eyes. Where is it? It's on the page somewhere. I need to scroll and find it. There it is. Okay, I got it. Okay, now let's go off and let's go run and buy this product. Good. Okay. Next. Okay, now I need to find something else. I found it. Okay. Well, we need to prevent this from happening. I need to vote for this person. Okay, let me go vote. Okay. Um, so this we've learned to read by hunting for information with our eyes. This is not how to read. We have lost our ability to read properly. So let me educate you on how to read properly. Let's restore our reading to the way it used to be. I'm going to come back to this one. In order to read so that you enter a flow state, okay, and that you can now be more fully engaged with your reading, you need to use your imagination. Yeah, so let's reinvent reading, okay? So reading is like being a shaman. It's like the light version of being a shaman. It's not about decoding words off of the page or finding a key fact that I need so I can get something done. Not necessarily. It can be. Primarily, it's just a way of entering imagination. Reading is more like dreaming. Okay, it's almost like astral projection, a light version of astral projection. Okay, because when you read, you enter an imaginary world, and then you go exploring, and you start to experience what the words are conjuring up. By names and images are all powers awakened and reawakened. All right, so levels of imagination in reading. So the bad habit now with reading is that we're hunting for information with our eyes. Stop doing that. When you are reading, like reading a book, like paper and ink, what you need to do is imagine the author talking to you. What does the voice sound like? What do the inflections sound like? Does it sound like a fireside chat? Is this a man? Is this a woman? Is it a child who's speaking? Do they sound urgent? Do they sound casual? Okay. This is engaging with your imagination at the auditory level. Level 1 is auditory imagination, imagining the author speaking. Okay. Many of us forget to do this, and then we start reading way too fast, processing information. Reading is not about processing information. It is about entering imagination. And the first level of imagination is to imagine what the author sounds like. Okay. And the characters who are talking. Okay. Level 2 is to literally visualize what the author is describing. So you can see here we've got this person at the podium talking to the audience, and the audience, first of all, is can hear the person speaking. Okay. And then they begin to visualize what the person at the podium is literally describing. In this case, Perseus cutting off Medusa's head. And not only that, but there's a level 3 of imagination that involves abstract visualization. In other words, conceptual mapping, outlining, seeing cause and effect relationships, okay? Bubble diagrams, things like that, okay? When you engage all 3 levels of imagination, that's a moderately challenging thing to do. So you set the conditions for a state of flow. Okay, so that reading becomes an engaging task, engaging enough when you're working at all 3 levels like this, so that your ego will disappear. The flame will blow out for a little bit. Or to use the shower analogy, it's just a shower now. It's just the shower. The droplets are falling. There's no me being hit by the droplets. There is simply the experience of what's going on in the imagination, okay? This is how to reclaim the power of reading. All right, let's return to that previous one. Another way to stay motivated when it comes to studying and reading, and particularly in regard to reading, because there is a lot of reading required for the grade work, okay? Set goals, for heaven's sake. Why not? If you guys want to join me, I'm actually on goodreads.com. You can find me by name. I just set up my account yesterday just to see whether this works pretty well, or a day before, or something like that. And I've engaged the feature where I tell everybody what book I'm reading, and I even tell them what page I'm on. And when I make progress, I record the progress immediately. Okay. Um, I'm finding it actually is pretty cool. I'm actually doing more reading than I did before. I'm not sure why exactly. Sharing it with people, I don't know. Um, but yeah, just to you're showing yourself how much progress you're making. I find it interesting that one of the most popular authors in the world is Stephen King. He's not that great a writer. He's written some cool stuff. Green Mile is pretty cool, but um, ultimately he's not that great a writer. But he is a page turner, and I think one of the biggest motivations when you read Stephen King is that, wow, I just blew through 30 pages in a single sitting. That's pretty cool. Somehow it feels kind of good to get through a lot of reading in one sitting. I'm not sure why. Um, but so setting these reading goals and tracking your progress is a great way to stay motivated and get lots of reading and studying done. All right, if you happen to be studying or reading something that is not of interest to you right now, like if you're going to college and they make you read stuff that you don't want to read, it's bound to happen. Uh, it's still your job to be motivated to read it. Sorry, you got to do it. Got to push through, right? Well, if you're not interested in what you're reading right now, chances are someone you know of or somebody that you're going to know is going to be interested. So why not try reading or studying on behalf of others? Okay, once again, get that ego out of the way. It's not all about you. In fact, if you want to enter a state of flow, there is no you. You're gone. It's just the shower. Okay? So read for other people's sake. For instance, if I'm reading an article about snoring, I don't snore that I know of. But my grandmother snores. So I don't want to read this article about snoring, but my teacher is requiring that I read it. Damn it. Well, in order to fix that, I will read this on behalf of my grandmother. Because chances are the topic of snoring is going to come up someday when I'm talking to her, and guess what? I'll be informed, and maybe I can give her some pointers. So I'm reading things on behalf of others. I read things to help other people. Okay? So you might want to consider that if you get bored when you're studying something, that boredom is very possibly selfish. It's like, this doesn't have any benefit to me. Well, could be a benefit to somebody. Why don't you read it on their behalf? Try it. It'll make you feel like a good person. Tell me what that feels like, by the way. Essentially, being in a state of flow and being motivated is like eventually you'll get to a point, hopefully, if the work is successful, where you're always on to something new. You never know what's going to happen next. And you're kind of excited all the time about, I can't wait to see what the universe is going to show me today. It's kind of the state of enlightenment, okay? Can't wait to see what's going to unfold next. And there's no me there to be apprehensive about what's going to happen or to feel inadequate in the face of what's happening. That's gone. It's just more about exploring and adventure and curiosity. Okay, there's not much more to enlightenment than that. So once that flame of discontent is blown out, there's nothing but always on to something new. The flower is constantly blooming. There's no end to it. It just keeps coming. And it's the eternal springtime now. Everything's constantly new, constantly gushing. Sometimes unpleasant, but still always interesting. And if there's nobody there to be offended by it, is it really so bad? All right, so I'm hoping this is of help for staying motivated. I don't know, this video might have kind of gone all over the place. I don't think social media is evil, but your instincts are being taken advantage of for somebody else to make a buck, basically. Don't let them do that. And don't let your phone snap its fingers at you and compel you to do this or that. Become your own boss. Put the damn thing away. You use it when you feel like it. And when it comes to reading and studying, remember, you are entering imagination. You are exploring imagination. You're not trying to process information. A robot does that, and you are not a robot. All right, until next time.